Moment of silence for the champions, for those who make going hard a lifestyle.
Toronto Raptors issue number 7. Look, it's not funny anymore. I need my Champions crossover mega event. Give me the Iron Heart, the Ms. Marvel, Miles Morales, Spider-Man, Agents of Atlas. Get them all in one book where I gotta read everything for 20 straight weeks. Let's just coordinate that with Jim Zub leading the ship. Leading the ship? I don't know my terminologies, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? So this was chock full. Like, I'm looking at my notes, I forgot Ms. Marvel was part of this comic from the beginning. And yeah, so she's talking to Viv about how she came out to her family. Ms. Marvel came out to her family about her superhero-ness about, what, 3 months ago now? So it makes sense to me that the writers know what other writers are doing, right? And fuck, boy, do writers know what other writers are doing after I read this. And then Viv Vision, you know, she has her little flashback to issue number 18 of Champions. I think that was right before Jim Zub started writing. It was the other Vision. It was a stupid storyline. I'm giving it too much attention, honestly. She's a robot. I will never care for this droid. C-3PO and R2-D2 are like the peak of love and interest I'll have in droids, but even them are only droids. And she ain't even Vision. She's Viv Vision, so I'm not gonna care. Whatever story they're gonna tell with her. Where's my Demi Lovato? I really don't care. Moving on, because the comic gets good on page 3. It's them in the Andromeda galaxy. You know that one. So it's Sam squeeze up against this girl who she says she was trapped in this little orbit for months, is what she said. Jim Zub, ladies and gentlemen, he understands. Really, it was 5 years ago when that story took place, when that comic came out. But, sliding timeline, you can't say 5 years because dude hasn't aged a single bit. Therefore, she says months. And when she says months, it's plural, which means 2 at minimum, which means 2. She was in there for 2 months. They're out there at the Spirit of Xandar. They're going to do this break-in, and they do it. She says something to him like, hey, exhale all your oxygen and I'm going to squeeze it all out of you. And I didn't know that's how that worked, right? Like, is that why we blow up in space, however it works? This is like a little science lesson in the comic book. Look at this artwork by Stephen Cummings. Not a single word on the page, and they're telling me the story. And it's great stuff. So she's out, inside. He's telling her you cannot kill these Nova workers. Even though they've got their helmets on their head, they're not actually staff. They're just dudes wearing it for ceremonial purposes. Jesse Alexander, his dad, who, if you haven't been reading Nova, bro, they found Nova at the end of the series, and then someone else got to rewrite Nova, and it was Nova number 1, 2016, and they made it so that it wasn't actually his dad, it was a clone of his dad, and it was the stupidest thing ever. They could have just ended the story with Jesse Alexander knighting Sam Alexander as the new Nova, and that would have been that. So, Nova, Jesse is out there still. Is he dead? We don't know. Okay, we move on. So, these loose threads, loose strings are being tied back up by Jim Zub. What's Jim's middle name? I don't know, but I would have said it if I did. There was a page, this one here, that shows that it was the Thieves Guild from a comic which I read, Amazing Spider-Man 9, which I saw dudes wearing a Black Nova helmet on his head, and thinking, wow, how many Black Nova helmets are there? This is terrible writing. This was all part of the plan, or it wasn't all part of the plan, and Jim Zub was just tying up loose strings and making things connect because he loves continuity, and Jim Zub is a phenomenal writer with a higher standard of writing for Marvel and for any comic book company that he's part of. I'm not a fan of independent stuff that's not Marvel. Anything that's not Marvel I don't read, because I'm investing in a universe. And this is exactly what the F I'm talking about. Amazing Spider-Man was tied in here. Nova was tied here. Champions from last year was tied in here. This was rewarding Chillmonger for reading Marvel comics and saying, here you go. We're going to keep telling these stories because it's never the end. It's always to be continued. The dilemma with him shooting or whether she shouldn't shoot, she set him up where he had to pull the trigger, and she's like, I would never give you a loaded gun. And she kills homeboy who stole the helmet from him in the first place. So now we got to go back to Earth because it's in Ohio. O-H-I-O. No, was it Iowa or Ohio? Wherever. It was one of those American states. And that's where they got to go back to find the Black Nova helmet. It has its own unique signature. They know where to go when they get it. The cover of the next issue has my girl Ironheart down there, and the Canadian one too. And it's going to be a doozy because Jim Zub, let me see, is Jim Zub still on that one? Yes, he is. He's still on that comic book. If you're not reading Champions, I don't know what to tell you.